Ready to go?
Yeah, we're getting all ready.
Hey, Eric, never mind. I just read your text. I was going to tell you that she was going to be late.
Large. I sent the lady something.
Okay.
Couldn't find my keys to get a large.
Oh, don't do this.
Deathly ill. So just-
Oh. Brian, what size t-shirt do you wear? Yeah.
Go extra large. Because knowing the way I do laundry, they'll shrink. Yes. So,
Mine, it keeps making funny noises.
okay. So, this happens once in a while.
This is
have
for
to
opening day one.
Close everything out when Akron doesn't they start. And it depends if she launched the meeting.
Oh, did you respond to? Did you respond to Heather with your t-shirt size? I did not. What is it?
I'm pretty sure she already launched it. So,
I will respond to you.
did you want that back?
I do. And Christie's gonna need this to have her on. Should I send it to you? You know about all this, right?
Some people do have other stuff.
What's the matter?
She has
Figured I'm in the
to,
right place.
she has to sign out and sign back in because it won't show that you
Yeah,
launched the
mine's doing
meeting.
the same
The
thing.
thing was, is I was on
That's what happens when I don't sign in, when I don't launch it quick enough.
No, you're fine. There you
Mine
go.
just.
Okay, thank you.
So sometimes if you go in and it says view the agenda, you have to log out of board docs and log
No,
back
and
in.
it would
then
have
you
been
can join
because
the
it
meeting.
was
Alright.
new, so
Thank you, Ryan.
everybody else is doing
Christie, you need Paul to-
Because I had that happen to me a couple of times. I was like,
is now.
Well, I'm so worried. I'm like, something delayed. It's gonna be happening, and I'm gonna be like, making me
Yeah.
excited for things. Quick, pause for a second. I'm having a good
We're
coffee.
all good?
Oh, my God.
All right, it is 7:02. We're going to call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the rising with the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to item 1C, this is something that was just recently added. At the beginning of our meetings, we're just going to acknowledge with a reading of the mission statement of the district. This is just to kind of refocus ourselves as a board and as an organization as to what our intent is. The mission of the Akron Central School District, a learning-centered community dedicated to the dreams of our students, is to ensure that each student realizes his or her unique human potential and contributes positively to society through a system characterized by valuing the unique gifts and dreams of each person, developing all dimensions of each human being, advancing the knowledge, skills, and wisdom of each student, nurturing and respecting the dignity of each human being, cooperatively working to continuously create new realities. With that, we will go into our presentations. We have two presentations this evening. The first one will be by our Buildings and Grounds from Kurt.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey,
Paul,
Kurt.
how are you? All right. So Paul, you're gonna have to run me through this. Okay?
Just click right there.
Okay. Very good. All right. All right, so, let me just get my bearings here. All right, there we go. All right, so I want to present tonight, we're working on 4 athletic fields in the district. We're working on the football field aspect is we're looking at filling in the side of the football field, to create a flatter surface, a safer surface. We're redoing the JV field. The JV baseball field has been in need of some repairs for many years. We've taken the initiative after the spring season. It got addressed to us pretty heavily, so we've been moving on that one. We have the varsity softball field, which also was in need of some work. The varsity baseball field. I'm going to start off the presentation with the football field update. That picture right there is one of our major concerns. Well, they're all major concerns, but this is probably one of the extremes. I tried to get a level on there so everybody could see that, but that's 7.5 inches. And basically what that means is that's the track where it meets the gutter system that's all the way around the field, and then that slopes up again to the sod. So what we've been tasked with is the fact of, what I've been tasked with is moving forward as far as trying to find out what the best solution would be with that. So basically what that means is the fact that there's some exposed drainage basin covers, some exposed and elevated above surface contract curbing, exposed and elevated utility boxes, sideline limitations 5 to 7 feet on average to the swale drainage and immediate rise to the track surface as much as 7.5 inches at the concrete drainage. The field was renovated in 2014 with this existing circumstance. Here's some pictures of the exposed catch basin drains. Those are on all 4 corners around the field. This here, and actually this picture over here to the right, that is a utility box that is on the 50-yard line on the south side, pretty much dead center in the field, which has got a pretty exposed curb area around it as well, right up next to the drainage system. So all that is proposed to be filled in. I met with a turf company first to try to figure out, what his perspective was on this idea, which we talked about some ideas. We met with Alan Dungy from Great Lakes Athletics, another great resource. We talked about his aspect of what he would do to fill this in. I met with Mike Loberg from Lakeside Sod. I met with 6, not all together 6 site contractors, but I have 6 site contractors lined up to look at this project. We're still working on a solution as far as what's going to be the best solution. We're still working on pricing as far as how this is all going to be played out. The original aspect of this was to be budgeted for 24 and 25, or so for next fiscal year. This is the proposed idea. I apologize for the blurry aspect here, but basically what this is that this mouse is a little slow, but there we go. This is the drain right here. This would be our gravel or sand mix that would still allow for percolation to go down to the drainage system, and then sod would be placed on top of this. And this is just another aspect of what we're trying to fill in right off of the track here. So what we're trying to achieve basically is a flat surface from here all the way to the inside of the football field. So literally what it would be is sod or grass continuation all the way to where it meets the track surface. These are the areas in question that we are proposing to put the sod wedge in to create this flat surface and go from there. Any questions?
So you have the existing draining system there, and you're talking about putting some type of fabric over it, then a sand layer, then sod.
Yep.
How's that going to affect the drainage?
Okay, so we've taken all that into account. Basically what we're looking at doing, because we have to have something that adheres to the sod, okay? So the weed fabric piece is going to be a very good commercial grade weed fabric. And then on top of that, we're going to be using a 50-50 sand mix and possibly some stone in between that, almost create like a cake layer type situation. Because of the situation that there is some of the more some of the bigger areas or the more dip areas, if you will, or the deeper swale areas, those are going to possibly need a little bit more percolation. So we might need 2 layers of weed fabric in some of the areas. So we've taken all that into account. Some of the shallow areas, it's literally going to be weed fabric on top of the drainage system that's currently there that just accepts the water that comes out of the track. And then the rest of the water, it literally percolates through the field that's currently existing, and it goes down into the drainage system that's underneath the football field, which then carries out into the catch basins.
Okay. And then
have you had anybody give you cost estimates?
I've only gotten one cost estimate so far. I'm expecting at least one more tomorrow and possibly another one after that.
Okay. I know that this needs to be addressed. I've taken players off the field, from shoulder injuries, head injuries, from, hitting those edges. So
Jeez.
I know that it needs to be addressed.
Yep.
My biggest concern is that I don't want to throw a ton of money at it.
Yep.
With us getting ready to spend 30 million
Sure.
on a capital improvement project, that field's going to be null and void.
So please keep this in mind with the fact that, this is an investment for the district, honestly, because, we have what we have up there, unfortunately and fortunately. It is still a good grass field at the end of the day, and putting an investment into this field, we're still looking at probably a 10 to 15 year investment up there. So we're going to have up to 3 seasons that we're going to be able to play on it if we can pull the trigger and be able to get this, get this going sooner than later. But with that being said, I would not use this as not a very good investment. I would say that it's actually a pretty good investment from a longevity standpoint. It's not a permanent scenario. This is something that we're just trying to make better for the situation that that is. But down the road, this is definitely something that we'll be able to utilize for a long time, as long as it's built correctly.
We have 3 phases of the project,
Yes.
right? And the 3rd phase, which may be 10 years down the road.
Right, exactly.
Right? But in 3 years, you'll have a brand new turf field, right?
Yes.
So we do have to do something in the short term, I agree with you.
Right.
I'm just looking at longevity
Yep.
and the cost, because if you go through with phase 2 and phase 3 of the project,
Yep.
that whole, whatever we invest in it now is gonna be wiped out, right? And
It'll
the
be changed for
maintenance of it
sure.
Over the course of time, because it's not just a one and done.
Right.
This will be like an every couple of year thing to redo things and.
Yeah,
Things like
realistically, as long as this is put in correctly, and I guarantee, I'm going to be overseeing this very, very closely. But with that being said, we'll be able to maintain this like for an every year circumstance, and we'll be able to keep up on something like this with our aeration process. And what that means is we have a system on one of our machines that literally goes through. Are you familiar with aeration?
Mhm.
We have an aeration situation that basically goes through and it kind of beats up the sod and also plants grass at the same time. And if we can do that, we'll be able to blend this over time and keep it going. So it'll be a good playable field for quite a long time, which several sports play out there. So you can also have that alternative field, to be able to utilize all the time.
Okay,
And
thank
Craig,
you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I would just also add, as you correctly mentioned in your presentation, this was originally going to be part of the budget plan for the 24-25 school year.
Yes.
But after reviewing the conditions of the field, some of the concerns, as Mr. Allen alluded to, as far as the safety needs of our students, conversations with Mr. Klaus, as well as Mr. Wortinger, our athletic director, we don't feel that the situation can wait another year. And I just want to thank you and your team. I know you have a list of 59 priorities that you're working on right now, and you've put this at the top of your list because it is a student safety concern. And as the mom of 2 football players, I understand how important it is for kids to be able to play on their home field, but more important than anything is their safety. So thank you for your diligent work.
You're welcome.
And working to get this done sooner versus later for our students.
All right. Anybody else?
Any other questions or concerns? Once you have kind of the budgetary numbers, are you gonna try and, or you'll update the board in regards to what those budgetary numbers are? Are you also looking in regards to timelines as to what, may be available? I know we're getting towards the end of construction season, but, potentially even just seeing if we, I don't want to put it on the back burner.
Yep.
That seeing that it be addressed.
Yeah, so to be very transparent, my conversations that I'm having with every contractor and also the other professionals that I've brought in, the conversation is the fact that we are trying to promote this to happen this year, and what is your ETA and when could you do this, figure speechingly. And we understand that most contractors are busy, and they already have their lineup. So we're trying to get some sort of eyeball on when this is going to be. And what I will do is, keep the board up to date, or, obviously be in contact with Andrea, and she can update accordingly
Okay,
with costs and ETA.
excellent. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
You're very welcome. Our JV baseball field. These are our repairs. These are our concerns that we're looking at, that have been brought to my attention with great regard. And so if anybody's interested to find out what a lip is, it's basically a bump that's on the outside of a baseline or on anything like that. But there was a lot of ramping up of infield and grass. Those are called lips. The sod was too hard, it holds water, the run paths are too narrow, no pitch for drainage, the arch was not at 90 feet, not easy to groom and keep managed, lack of infield mix, wind erosion and water erosion. One of the things that has pretty much taken place, it was the fact of all these things, and it's just something that's been an ongoing scenario for many years, and it needed to be addressed. So we decided to this past spring, we decided to come up with a game plan and start working on this. These are some past tense pictures from this past spring, the past tense condition of the field. Here's some more. You can see some of the water holding. You can see some of the baselines over here that are quite narrow, etc. This is pretty much what we have done to the field. We've cut it back 90 feet. We're rebuilding the pitcher's mound. We have rounded out all the bases to 45 degrees. We've widened out the run paths. We've done all this based on professional suggestion and also specs. So everything is right up to spec and will be. We were able to get some money together and get some infield mix. We needed 2 loads of infield mix, which pretty much meets around 65 ton, if I'm not incorrect. But you can see the guys working out here and pulling everything up and getting everything situated so that we can spread the new infield mix, digging out the sod, etc. This is what, it's kind of hard to see here, but this is what it has turned out to. This doesn't show the new infield mix that's spread, but this field is currently underway. We're not completed with it, but we're almost there. Any questions about that field? One of the things that I would like to go over with this field as well, on my layout here, is I am looking to do a program with this field every single year and budget for it. We are looking into what's called a deep tine aeration with this, and an over sanding of it. So basically the sand would be spread over top of the holes that would be created, and what that's supposed to do is literally create more percolation for the field to allow more drainage. There's also a drainage on the outside edge that would be it would be on the south side of the field that's been overgrown. We're looking to get that cleaned up so it drains properly as well, and just give this field just a little bit more attention so that our players have a little bit better place to play. Questions about JV field?
The deep tine aeration, that's due to the matting that's underneath, correct?
No, so there's no matting underneath the JV field. The JV field is our field that would be to the west, well, it would be to the southwest corner underneath the bus garage. And that field was put in, from what I'm understanding, in the 50s. That's actually our best sod that we have. It's just that it gets compacted because of some football practices and some other aspects, but just needs some attention. There's not a lot of healthy growth out there, so we're going to have an aeration practice out there as well, and try to get that growing a lot better as well. All right, varsity softball field. Our concerns were water ponding, hard to groom near home base, lack of infield mix, the baselines and radius renovation needed. The radius needed to be renovated. And then remove the lips again. This is a lot of before. You can see a pile of infield mix right here on the field, which we're getting ready to spread, and we have one more that is also going to be applied to this field. But our overall solution for this field was to cut out the baselines and round out around first and third, add 2 to 3 loads. We're going to aerate and seed the infield and outfield of this. We're going to pitch this field a little bit better so that it drains a little bit better, because right now the ponding is right behind home base. Cutting the infield radius to spec, rebuild the pitcher's mound, cut out around home base. The cost was around $8,000, which we've already purchased the infield mix for this. We were able to find some money last year and get this underway. And this is a little difficult to see, but basically, I really can't even see it. Whoop. Anyways, we've cut out behind home base. It'd literally be right there. We've kind of squared it out, and we've gotten a lot of sod removed and gotten it ready for easier maintenance and hopefully better playability. Any questions on that field? All right, the varsity baseball field. So this field also got brought to my attention in the spring. Both the baseball coaches, and it's been in need of quite a bit of work also for a while. But these were some of our concerns, or the concerns that were brought to us. Hard infield grass, and what that means is, the infield around the pitcher's mound is, the balls are hitting it and they're bouncing right off of it. So we're looking at renovating that. Narrow run lines, the lips again, dips and humps in the infield. Pitcher's mound needs to be rebuilt. Poor drainage, major slope to the outfield. Outfield fence is way too far. Anybody that's addressed or been around our varsity baseball field is, I'm sure, well aware of how far out that fence is. This is the current aspect of what we have right now. It doesn't look too bad from the pictures, but there's a lot that needs to be done in and out. I put a bottle here just for a little bit of a reference as far as, so this is third base. This hump rises probably between 8 and 10 inches, and that is around first base as well. You can see it maybe a little bit in the arch in the grass right there, but that's kind of a general circumstance around the whole entire field. There's a lot of ponding that happens inside the infield, and we've added I think 2 or 3 loads to this field already. So we have enough infield mix on it, but now we just need to recreate the field, and we just need to make it better. What this is going to take is, it's going to take a professional to come in, and we're going to have to pretty much rip the field apart and start from scratch in order to make this happen. So this is the demolition of the field, about $13,500. And this is the proposal of the installation. Total cost for this field is approximately $36,272. This is according to Great Lakes Athletics, which is one of the more renowned field building companies around. So this is the proposal from them. So this is what we're looking to try to achieve at some point. Any more questions?
Any other questions? Thank you for bringing us up to speed in regards to these couple of items. As you alluded to, I know what kind of prompted it is from the standpoint of with school starting in the football field. That was a concern that's been brought up a couple times by some parents. So we wanted to kind of get an update as to where things were. And then likewise, as going through the capital improvement program, our presentation and everything was brought to light in regards to the needs to address the baseball fields and the softball fields as well. So this is something that we're doing internally and budgeting for, but it's being addressed as well. So.
Yes. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Moving on to our second presentation for the evening. Ms. File and Ms. Cost in regards to the code of conduct.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening. So today we are going to give a brief presentation on the updates and revisions to our code of conduct. The code of conduct is something that does have to be updated and revised annually. So this is our annual revision that we want to propose this evening. Just historically, the district, Caroline and I actually back in July 2021 updated the code of conduct pretty heavily, where we incorporated a lot of inclusive language and also felt like it was really important to pull in our proactive and preventative measures to be reflected in our code of conduct. In addition, highlighting students' rights and responsibilities in our code of conduct. So we're at a really good place with making sure that we have those measures in place, and strongly feel like the code of conduct is a means to make sure that all of our students come to school every day and feel safe and have a sense of belonging. So I feel like that's very strongly reflected within our code of conduct.
Just before we get started, you did receive 2 copies. You received one, which would be the formal one for board approval, and you also received the highlighted copy, which would highlight any changes from last year's code of conduct that you would see in your copy, just for your reference, so you can compare from last year to this coming school year.
So our goals this year were to update the code of conduct to implement a more restorative model district-wide, to ensure that our code of conduct accurately reflects the proactive and preventative interventions currently in place within our district, and to support a more restorative approach, and to continue to elicit input from essential stakeholders, administrators, students, parents, teachers, staff members. Really a highlighter and emphasis being on that restorative approach. We're really moving in the direction to take on a restorative model so that our students feel a greater sense of safety and belonging, to decrease any violence and bullying in the school, and to ensure that anytime a mistake or an infraction has occurred, that students do have the opportunity to repair any harm that was done.
The goal in a restorative approach is for students to learn and be able to reflect in a safe environment, so they feel that they have the capacity and the support to learn from any mistake that may have happened, or instead of an immediate consequence, actually talking through why that consequence might need the action that was taken. So that's really what we're trying to achieve as a district. Sorry, it's a little slow. Just to quickly walk through the timeline, as Mary said, this is really a year-to-year process where we focus on taking into account what's going on in the world in terms of situational things that arise, and also taking into account locally what Erie One BOCES puts out and what other districts put out. So just to walk through, we discussed this with our administrative team in January. We also compared other neighboring districts' code of conduct so that we're taking into account all aspects around us. We gathered feedback from our admin team, from all building principals who again are the responders to these consequences and situations that arise. So we're taking in feedback in terms of things that are missing, or maybe items that we could provide more clarity on in our code of conduct. We did that in January. We had student stakeholder meetings. So at all the buildings, we have student advisory councils, which came out of our strategic plan process. And at those meetings, we meet with students. Maybe Mary can speak to the high school and middle school. And the elementary, we met with 4th and 5th grade students specifically this summer to get some feedback on what they thought about our code of conduct and any changes that they felt that we needed to make. We also spoke with Kristen Coons, our legal counsel through BOCES, who provided us with some guidance. The state recently came out with guidance, I believe in January. It was guidance. It hasn't been formally adopted by the Board of Education, but it did highlight some upcoming changes to statewide codes of conduct and how the state might make legal changes to the way that we can provide consequences in schools. So we sought out legal counsel through Kristen Coons, and we worked with BOCES. We followed their code of conduct. We were advised to wait until BOCES had taken in those recommendations from the state, and we waited for BOCES to formally adopt their code of conduct before we made the final changes on ours. And again, we met with our admin team to talk about it. We took into account some input from parents teachers, students, as we had said, staff members, our student support personnel who often would deal with the restorative aspect of this. So we really did take into account feedback from all stakeholders when creating this final draft of our code of conduct. And I kind of already talked about that, but in terms of specifically what we were looking for from our admin team, what aspects of the code of conduct are missing and what changes are needed to be made. Specifically, drugs, the form of drugs have changed so we needed to adopt our code of conduct to make sure that we had the right language reflecting what our students are encountering on a day-to-day basis. So that would be an example of changes that we needed to make immediately to reflect what's going on in society. Teachers, we sought input from teachers to see anything that currently doesn't exist or maybe something that we could provide more clarity and be concrete and direct about in our code of conduct, as well as feedback from parents. And maybe situations arise all the time, and as we say in all of our buildings, we want to have feedback from parents, and we certainly take that into account when we're creating a code of conduct, because your children are our greatest responsibility, so we want to make sure that we're providing a code of conduct that is safe and fair and allows for learning experiences in anything where we would need to reference the code of conduct. Oh, I'm sorry, the public comment was supposed to happen tonight, but it will be happening at the next board meeting on September 6th, so this will be up for public comment on September 6th.
So I mentioned it briefly as we started the presentation, but our code of conduct heavily reflects positive behaviors and preventative measures. We can speak very strongly about how having a strong relationship between behavior and learning is very important, that students learn better in an environment where they feel supported, heard, seen. And so through our student support team and building and district level administration, we've really been focused on a multi-tier student support system and process that does focus on behaviors. And one thing that myself, Mr. Dimitrov, and Mr. Caprio look forward to coming back and present to the board is our implementation of our new PAUSE program at the secondary level. PAUSE meaning positive alternatives with supports. So we recognize how important it is to give students the opportunity to stay connected in school and repair any harm that's done through any incidents or infractions throughout the school day. We've been working very closely with our teacher on special assignment, Mrs. Gigallo, who's really hit the ground running and helping us and sharing this vision of this program to make sure that students are connected to our middle and high school should an infraction occur.
Just some notable updates. We did include some new definitions as a result of education law that came out this year in the middle of the year in January. So just different definitions for, you could see them up there, controlled substances, change in placement, gender identity and expression, illegal drugs, as I had referenced before, and student support service personnel. So this student support personnel can include guidance counselor, psychologist, social worker. In our district, we include our Native American liaison or Indigenous liaisons, but that term is changed because it's all encompassing of the supports that are offered in districts. And in the elementary specifically, we changed the outline of how our code of conduct to match the middle and the high school. So we have listed infractions and we have a range of outcomes listed as well. Obviously at the elementary level, we're focusing more on growth and learning because we know that our students do not have the developmental capacity to understand fully what an action taken may result in. So it's our job to provide more of a restorative approach. So all of our, you'll see in our outline there that our approach is more restorative in nature, and then we list potential consequences, or we call them outcomes after that, to model after the middle and high. And then you will also see a updated acceptable use policy that I believe was adopted on July 5th this year, which highlights technology use as well as more specific language as it relates to cyberbullying and social media. Again, keeping up with the times, what our students are using and maybe misusing is reflected in our code of conduct. And I believe that is it.
Just the next steps. Is it?
It's not moving.
Okay. Oh, there we go. So next up, so it is our responsibility to make sure that all of our students understand the code of conduct and the importance and meaning behind the code of conduct. So at the secondary level, we push into all PE classes and give a presentation, again, really highlighting and focusing what preventative and what proactive solutions we have in place, any specific interventions or support that students need. That's our top priority. In addition, just making sure that they understand what is outlined in the code of conduct. We post it on our website. In addition, it is reflected in all of our student handbooks, elementary, middle, and high. Our staff has provided updates at our opening day faculty meetings, and we continue to refer to the code of conduct throughout the school year. We do utilize the code of conduct as a working document. When you look at that timeline, it really is a conversation that occurs year long. So we do take feedback throughout the year and take notes on that, so that when we do begin to make those physical changes to the code of conduct, we do have that feedback. And then we will continue to pay attention and notice those societal trends and use Erie One BOCES as a reference, and continue to collaborate with local school districts so that, again, we're all providing that experience for our students in the most positive way possible.
Now we're done. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions. Then thank you very much, both Ms. Vile and Ms. Haas, for updating us in regards to the code of conduct. I'm sure if there's any other questions that the board has, or hopefully if there's any parents, depending on your presentation on the 6th, just please let us know if anything else changes in regards to the response from the community.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also just wanted to say thank you to you both for doing such a fantastic job with this process. It wasn't just a little update or minor revision. It was a complete overhaul of our code of conduct to align with a more restorative focus and evidence-based focus that will allow us to teach a different behavior. So thank you for your work with that piece. I believe it's going to be a model for other districts, so thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, which is the hearing of individuals and delegations. I do not have any pink cards. On to item 4, which is the superintendent's report.
All right. Well, I wanted to begin my superintendent's report with truly a heartfelt thank you to the Board of Education and the Akron community for the opportunity to serve as the interim superintendent of schools. I am excited about all the work that we are going to accomplish this year, and I look forward to collaborating with all of you in this capacity. To that end, I am very excited to say that we have assembled a dream team to support the Office of Curriculum and Instruction for the board's consideration tonight. All 3 members of the dream team are here tonight. Carolyn Koss has been identified as the Interim Director of Professional Development and Instruction. Todd Esposito, Interim Director of Educational Services and Indigenous Programs, and Paul Kowalski, Interim Director of Federal Grant Programs. They are an extremely collaborative, talented, and dedicated team, and I am going to look forward to working with them in this capacity. They have already contributed so much to the role with their creativity and their hard work. So thank you to all of you, and thank you to the board for considering that on the agenda this evening. And I'd like to say we are about to enter into my absolute favorite time of school, time of the year when we get to officially welcome back our faculty and staff to the new school year. And then, of course, our VIPs, our students, on September 6th. We have a new teacher orientation program this year. We anticipate welcoming 15 new members of our instructional staff to the new teacher orientation this year. We have a variety of professional development opportunities planned for our teachers to really integrate them into the Akron culture and get them started on the right foot for the start of their school year. We have instructional support staff joining us on August 30th as they will begin their compliance training. And then we have the opportunity to welcome back everybody, our faculty and staff, on September 1st. September 1st will also mark the kickoff of our #OneAkron campaign. very excited about this school year. It's going to be a celebration of our entire school community, and it will ground us in our collective commitment to support a positive and collaborative school environment, keeping our district mission and our students at the heart of all we do. So you will see #OneAkron as a reoccurring theme throughout the school year. You will notice that many of our professional development opportunities that we've identified for September 1st are focused around that idea of positive culture and building community. The activities for professional development on September 1st and September 5th, I did attach for the board's information. I wanted to thank the members of our professional development planning team. I see one member sitting here off to the side today for their contributions. The ideas for that day truly came from our faculty and staff and align with the goals of our strategic plan. Will Green will be our keynote speaker on September 1st. Will Green is a highly accomplished educational consultant who's worked with several school districts in the area with tremendous positive feedback. His work is not going to be just a keynote with us, but it will be sustained throughout the course of the school year. And he helps districts develop systems and structures to create a supportive, positive, affirming school culture and school environment. So we're excited about all of those things. And speaking of our strategic plan, goal number 1 on our strategic plan was to improve our communication systems. And this has been pretty close to a year in the making, and we are very excited tonight to share an update in regards to our soon-to-be unveiled district Facebook page.
Thank you, Mrs. Kirsten. On the screen here, you'll see I want to call it a draft, but really what our team believes to be the start of our Facebook page, ready to go. As Mrs. Kirsten mentioned, and those of you that were here in May at the board meeting, I gave an update talking about the work that our committee did surrounding Goal 1, and just a quick trip back to that, not to restate the whole presentation, but last year at the start of the school year, we did a community survey, and one of the a parent survey, I should say that correctly, and overwhelmingly Facebook was the preferred method of communication. And meeting as a committee throughout the year, I previously talked about, we worked with BOCE's communication services. Have actually, as I mentioned, enlisted their support. There's a number of people that I want to thank, but a new name to share with the board, Mr. Jordan Fitch just came on board. He was part of that BOCE's team, and along with Sharon Catalano, myself, Adam Close, who's over here, Mike Schreiber in our office, we've worked collaboratively with teachers, with Mrs. Kirsten, and administrators to get to this point. With that being said, went through in May all of the acceptable use policy updates, the guidelines, and those sorts of things. We're going to, as part of opening day, part of my updates, go through those with all staff. In fact, prior to that, I'll be actually joining Mr. Wartinger to address social media and communication with our athletics, with our coaches. So that'll be coming up as soon as next week. But in any event, the reason why I wanted to put this up here tonight is to show you that, one, we have done some more work since I showed you a skeleton back in May. One of the things that we hope to do, launching this early this month, hopefully momentarily, is to provide another method to communicate as we ramp up to the school year, to capitalize on some of the existing methods that we had. While we agree that maybe they weren't consistent, at least we can use that to get the message out about this page. And it provides enough time as well with an early August launch to be able to come back together as a communications team in early to mid-September and identify anything that we may have missed, figure out what's worked well, tweak that early on, and really have this as an asset to start the year and mentioned the One Akron campaign that really kind of goes with this. And just to show an example, and this will show, you'll be able to see when it goes live, but we have a couple of posts already that, as we've been working on this in the background, they're posts that would represent the sorts of things that we hope to communicate and celebrate some of the good news and good things coming out of the Akron Central School District. So we'll let everybody see it for themselves, but there's, even though we're in the summertime, we've got some student celebrations, some committee work on the capital improvement project, and some more student activities during the summertime. Does anybody have any questions?
All right, are we ready to
Oh, so
launch it?
I'm ready.
I'm going to give the honor to our president. Get to hit the button.
So we've overcome a couple technical challenges tonight. Assuming we don't have another one, I'd like to click publish here.
Sure.
Did you remember the drum roll? No. You did publish.
There.
Now you can invite friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we will put out further instructions. There was a, I should also mention, not to take over the rest of your report, Mrs. Kirsten, but the calendar that I think I saw was passed out here, those calendars went to the post office today. There is a purposeful reference to this page there, so we were hoping to time that. That being said, there isn't an easy way, like if you see on this screen right now, create username. We need a minimum number of followers. I think it was 25 according to BOCES, which hopefully we'll get there by the end of this meeting. So that will have a user friend, hopefully a pretty friendly name that we'll be able to publish and link to our website. But if you're wondering why that's not there, or that's not printed in the calendar, it just simply couldn't be done until it was published. So, thank you.
Thank you for all of your work and the communications team work on making this a possibility. Much appreciated. And there's no topping that presentation, so that does conclude my superintendent's report.
The next item on the agenda is item number 5, which is the acceptance of the minutes. We have the minutes from the organizational business meeting of July 5th, 2023, and a special meeting July 12th, 2023. The recommended action being that the Akron Central School Board of Education accept the minutes of the July 5th organizational regulation meeting and the July 12th special meeting as submitted by District Clerk Roxanne Redman, and send items 5A to 5B. Move Mr. Allen.
Second.
Second Mr. Kenline. Any comments or discussion? The item passed. Moving on to item number 6, personal instruction. The recommended action being that the Akron Central School Board of Education, upon the recommendation of Andrea S. Kirsten, interim superintendent of schools, does hereby approve instructional items, consent items 6A through 6F. Moved Mr. Allen.
Second.
Seconded Mr. Kenline. Any comments or questions? Motion passes. On to item number 7, the personal non-instructional items. The recommended action is that the Akron Central School Board of Education, upon the recommendation of Andrea S. Kirsten, interim superintendent of schools, does hereby approve non-instructional items, consent items 7A through 7B.
Move.
Moved Mr. Allen.
Second.
Seconded Mr. Kenline. Any comments or discussion? Item 7 passes, 1 abstention. Item number 8, district items. There are a lot. The recommended action is that the Akron Central School Board of Education, upon the recommendation of Andrea S. Kirsten, interim superintendent of schools, does hereby approve district items, consent item 8A through 8V.
Moved.
Moved Mr. Kenline.
Second.
Seconded Mr. Allen. Any comments or discussion?
I would just like to add, there is one more contract for consideration in regards to our capital project that the board will see on the agenda at the next board meeting. That will be the contract with CPL. The attorneys are just working on refining some language related to one of the exhibits on the amendment. So you will see that at your next meeting in September, regular meeting.
And the item passes. Moving on to item number 9, which is the bond resolution. The recommended action is that a bond resolution dated August 9th, 2023 of the Board of Education of Akron Central School District, Erie, Genesee, and Niagara Counties, New York, the district, authorizing the district, A, to undertake an approved capital improvement project 2023, the project consisting of the reconstruction, rehabilitation, and renovation in part, and the construction of improvements, upgrades, and additions to various district buildings and facilities and the sites thereof at an estimated maximum cost of $29,829,634, and B, to issue serial bonds or other obligations of the district for the financing of the project in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $24,749,279,000, with the balance of the estimated maximum cost of the project to be covered by the expenditure of the entire remaining balance, which stood at approximately $5,080,355, plus any additional interest earned from the district's capital improvements reserve fund that was established in May of 2017, with such fund then to be terminated, and delegating the powers to be issued bond anticipation notes and the anticipation of the sale of such obligations to the president of the Board of Education of the district.
Moved.
Moved Mr. Kenline.
Second.
Seconded Mrs.
Kofta?
Kafka. Thank you.
New name.
Thanks, Eric.
It's kind of been 1-2 all night.
Did not pass. It needed a majority.
Okay, it did not pass.
Yes.
Moving on then to item number 10, special education. Recommended action is that the Akron Central School Board of Education, upon the recommendation of Andrea S. Kirsten, interim superintendent of schools, does hereby approve the classifications and placements as per list received as recommended by the Committee on Preschool Special Education and the Committee on Special Education. These recommendations are the least restrictive environment at this time.
Moved.
Moved Mr. Kenline.
Second.
Seconded Mr. Allen. Motion passes. Moving on to the next item. Board discussion. This is in regards to the board appeal and discussion and decision-making format. Everybody has a copy of the process as which was defined. This is pertaining to it's a recognition that the board received an appeal of instructional materials reevaluation committee that was received on July 18th, and that the appeal requests books and questions to be removed from the shared high school library. The board is currently in the process of reading the books, has received the written appeal and the above-mentioned documents, and will deliberate at a future meeting regarding the appeal of the committee's decision. With that in mind, when we get to the end, we had 2 dates that were scheduled out. Either date looked like it was acceptable by all parties, so I'd make the recommendation that we would accept a special meeting date on August 28th at 7 p.m., where the only course of business for that evening will be the discussion of the book appeal. Because the district's policies and procedures do not specify how the board must consider an appeal, the purpose of this discussion is to propose that the board agree upon a framework in its debate in regards to the July 18th appeal that allows all board members to speak on the appeal before voting on the appeal. The terms that, as we'll go through and discuss here currently, was shared with all board members previous to this date, in which comments were allowed to be shared. Further discussion will happen this evening as well. And the intent of this is to have a vote in which we adopt the rules and procedures for this debate and consideration for the special of the appeal from the 18th of the committee's decision. With that being said, the basic format that has been discussed is that step 1, each board member will have approximately 5 minutes in which they can share his or her thoughts that they feel are pertinent to the board's consideration of the July 18th appeal. Remarks by the board member may, but are not required to include the reference of the information found in the reviewed and required documents, references to the specific book by name, and the committee's decision and appellate's request. It is considered that when board members are not speaking, they're asked not to interrupt and to carefully consider the perspectives and recommendations offered by fellow board members during their speaking time. Following an opportunity for all board members to engage in step 1, step 2 would be initiated, in which individual recommendations would be made. Upon hearing from all members, board president would then offer each member an additional time period, a suggestion of 2 minutes or so, to make additional statements germane to the debate and or in response to the statements made by other fellow board members. After providing all of the additional comments from each board member and their recommendation to the superintendent, it would make a decision upon 3 different courses of actions. The first one would be to uphold the committee's decision. The second one would be to reject the committee's decision in favor of the appellate's request as stated in the 833-0R form, or 3, to reprimand the matter to the superintendent with specific instructions to be followed by the board, as indicated by the board. Following step 2, step 3 would be reaching a consensus on the appeal. Then board president would then direct the district clerk to record the yeas and nays of the appropriate question about the appeal, each of which are those in favor of upholding the instructional material reevaluation committees on the book entitled X. Yea or nay for those in favor of accepting the appellate's request at the district to remove the book entitled X from the middle school, high school media library collection with a yea or nay. Or 3, to remand the matter to the superintendent with the following directions from the board. Following step 4 would be determining if any further action was necessary based on the input of the board during the conversation of the meeting. President would determine whether further action would be necessary. Examples of such matter could be the formation of subcommittees to review existing policies and regulations for possible revisions, determination of how subsequent appeals of the same reevaluation committee decision are to be handled by the board, provision for additional information and communication with students, families, and community regarding the decision, collaboration with the Akron Newstead Library on how the district and the public library can collaborate to meet the needs of all students within the community, and finally, but not limited to, the creation of a student advisory board for the Library Media Center. I'd open the floor to any questions, comments in regards to the process as has been outlined.
Yeah, I got a couple. And I voiced this in our emails. I think having this on the agenda is pretty much a moot point since the decision was already made through email and telephone conversations and emails when this was first sent out to us. Secondly, I'll reserve my objections that were stated in the emails. Third, there should not be anything that is remanded to the superintendent or the acting superintendent within a specific instruction from the board. This is a board level decision. The board needs to pony up to the table, make your voices heard, make your decisions known. If your decision is, yep, we're gonna uphold the decision, or no, we're not gonna uphold the decision and we're gonna agree with the appeals, then so be it. It's a yes or no. There is no third option. That is a scapegoat that people don't have to go on the record, in my opinion. You have a yes or no question in front of you, and that's what needs to be put at the table. Not a, oh, well, we're gonna leave it to the superintendent. That is a complete cop-out.
Okay, your point's making.
And again, this is an agenda item that doesn't need to be on there since the decision was already made.
Since what decision was made?
This process was adopted. Your email very clearly stated that you wanted everyone's opinion on it and that you talked to the other board members that didn't respond to the email because they didn't know the email existed because they were busy working, and that this was the process that we were going to go.
No, that is not the point at all. The point of this being on the agenda is to have this dialogue at this point in time in which to engage in this sort of dialogue.
Which has already happened.
What dialogue has already happened?
I'll pull the emails for you, Eric. Okay, and then we'll read them at the next business meeting, every email.
What, and your second point was in regards to?
Remand the matter to the superintendent?
No, you had something after. The first one was in regards to saying that this was already decided.
We just discussed this. I'll bring the emails to the next board meeting, and we'll put them on the record. Or somebody can FOIA request them, either way.
Right, because the intent of this was to have a dialogue to go through to solidify what any of these are. Some individuals did respond that they were fine with the process as it was listed. You had some objections, which I have here, and can address each one of the concerns that you had. you had here. You indicated that you thought this was meant as a board decision, and it wasn't about turning down or either allowing or denying an appeal. And that's not the case. In this case here, we're listening to the appeal and having a special meeting strictly to discuss the appeal. You indicated in regards to a limit on time, but it's not a limit on time. We're trying to conclude it in a 30-day session. That's why we're looking to hold it on the 28th to meet the 30-day requirement.
That would be day 29, correct?
Yes, day 29 would be 30 days. So we're having a special meeting prior to the 30 days.
1 day prior. This process has already been going on since January or February. This should have been done. And the previous administration tried to play both sides of the fence. And I told them that right from the beginning. Give the people the appropriate paperwork and the appropriate policy, which he didn't do until people started coming to meetings and expressing their thoughts on it. Then, once it became public knowledge, then he had to do something.
Okay, so all we're conducting with at this,
Just take the vote, Eric.
all right? The intent was here to have a discussion and a dialogue.
The discussion has already been had.
The frustration here is with the 12 or 13 emails prior to this, the discussion should have been had here about that and not in the emails. That's the frustration.
About what?
The process, the media statements.
So how would you go?
You send it out, and you say, hey, this needs to be put on the agenda to have a discussion. What we did through the email, which essentially took a vote on the process, is illegal.
We have not taken a vote on the process.
Okay.
That is the purpose that it is on this agenda. The full intent and purpose of this being on the agenda was to have a discussion. While a process was given to everybody and outlined, it was a framework in which you could start having a conversation. If there's no framework to base anything off of, how do you go through and establish what that framework is supposed to be?
So you can send out the framework that should have just been put on the agenda. There should have been no discussion about it in an email. Zero. Because it is public business. There should have been zero discussion. It should have been, this is the thought on the framework, this is what I'm recommending, and we will discuss it at the next business meeting. There should have been zero discussion in email. Because this is public business.
I understand that. But the only discussion that I saw from any of the board members was either people indicating that they thought the framework was fine as listed, or your discussion here in regards to the 6 topics that you have here as being in question. And it was clear, it was identified. Christie said, okay, I'm okay with the process as outlined.
What number was I in that response? I mean, it's gone through. I think that the point is we can't have those type of discussions by email, period.
We weren't having the discussions by email. There wasn't a discussion.
Okay.
The discussion was to establish. The discussion was to establish a framework, and that there was something there, and to best suit the board in regards to conduct business in a direct and orderly fashion, is to share with the entire board what that framework is, so that when you come to this meeting and the meeting is held in open session for full dialogue, you are prepared with any statements, comments, or concerns in regards to the framework in which has been presented. If you think that this framework is not necessary, I guess that's my question. What would your framework be?
That's a discussion to be had at the table.
What? At what
I'm
table?
sorry, I didn't hear you.
If there were, Pat made the outline,
Correct.
correct? Okay. So at that point, it should have been sent to everybody, hey, here's the framework, we need to have a discussion about this at the next meeting. You can send out the framework. That's not the issue. The issue was the discussions that were had inside. I'm okay with the framework, I'm good with it. The objections that were raised to the framework, those are all things that should have been brought to the table. Those are discussions that we should be having here for everyone that's here, everyone at home.
And that is why it's on the agenda.
But you already asked people to vote on it.
No.
He asked,
He said
Okay.
we are taking a vote.
Take the
on-
vote, Eric.
We were taking a vote this evening
Yep.
on the framework that was here. Not that there was a vote to accept this. All of it is that
You're
this is-
asking people whether or not they approved it. That is a form of a vote. And then you called board members who didn't respond to the email and said, are you okay with the framework? You're asking them to vote on the framework.
no, he was asking, are you okay with the format?
Okay.
That is different than calling a vote.
And Pat Snow had shared this with the entire board on July 21st. You responded first. Then Joe, and all it was as for full transparency, was recognizing the complexity of this in regards to the evaluations. The proposed course of action is to take place over 2 meetings to allow time for the board to read both books and have time for thoughtful consideration upon addressing the matter. From there, the consideration was that Heather and Joe would not be in attendance at this meeting, and it was inquired as to whether or not there would be an open dialogue in public at a later date. It was noted that the board had until August 29th to respond to the appeal, which we now have officially done in this meeting, identifying that the appeal was received and that we were going to take further action upon it. And all I said is that the meeting on the 9th would have the board approve the process and format as listed. That's what I told the board, was that the process on the 9th would be approved. That way the community would have a clarity on how the review was conducted. And then once the process is approved, the actual discussion and decision would occur at a later meeting. This way we could comply with open meeting law, and that the board would not be and would review all the conversation amongst the board. I indicated I support that the format that was presented, however, would allow full board participation and conversation. And so that way it would allow us more time to review the materials and ask questions leading up to the discussion if needed. Stephanie indicated she was in agreement. Pat reconfirmed that the 29th was the 30 working days. And then you outlined your 6 concerns, and then Andrea indicated she was happy because we shared the information with her as there was a transition between Pat and herself, and then Christy commented that the outline as the process as outlined was okay. But it was strictly to get to this point. Again, for the motion of transparency because of the issue at hand. But with that, if there isn't any other discussion or comments,
I move the framework be accepted as written.
we have a motion made,
I'll second.
second made. Sorry, made by Mr. Kenline, seconded by Ms. Tucker. The item moves. Moving on to item number 12. School board correspondence. August 24th, back to school dinner at Fox Grove, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. See Ms. Redmond this evening for registration. Item number 13, the upcoming dates, Tuesday, August 15th, board retreat from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. In C120. Thursday, August 17th, a special meeting at 6:30 to be conducted in the boardroom. That is meeting in regards to the superintendent's search. Tuesday, August 22nd through Thursday, August 24th, the Akron Central Schools new teacher orientation will be taking place. Friday, September 1st through Tuesday, September 5th, the superintendent conference days. Monday, September 4th, Labor Day, there is no school. Wednesday, September 6th, first student day. Code of Conduct public hearing is on 9/6 at 6:15, and Wednesday, September 6th, regular Board of Education regular business meeting. There is a need for executive session, correct? There's not. Okay. There is item number 14. There is no need for executive session this evening. So I would move to item number 15, which is adjournment, and would entertain a motion.
Moved.
Moved, Mr. Allen.
Second.
Second, Ms. Pidgeotto.
I've done that.
I think we've all done that.
I'm voting yes.
Do you want to adjourn?
Yes, I do.
Signed up before the vote.
Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:18.
Nobody run away, please. We need to see everybody.
You need signatures on the tax warrant,
I
right?
need signatures, I need.
I thank everybody for coming this evening. As always, if any comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free to address them to the board or to the superintendent for further dialogue or discussion. Thank you.